Hello, hello, Facebookers. Welcome to the What's Your Journey show with your host, Maverick Mary, and of course, myself, Spunky Susan. And tonight we have a lovely guest. I like his baldness going on here. He's shining, he's glowing. Kind of gives me that exciting feeling that summer's on the way.
Yeah, let's go with that. I like positive thinking.
So tonight we have VJ with us, and we've been on a series of a conversation around dealing with struggling students. And VJ was referred to us, and I was excited about what he's going to bring us tonight in this conversation around the students and testing. So I had the page up here, believe it or not, for a bio. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just give you a little bit information about VJ, and then we'll just kind of get this ball rolling. So VJ is an ex-Division I recruited athlete and a 21-year head coach in college hockey. He has also coached youth, middle school, and high school, USA Hockey, NSCA Regional, and to NYSHS Football Coaches Annual Conference. What I'm excited about is that what he's done with his work is gone beyond what you typically hear about coaches and, educators in the schools. He's also a publisher of 3 books, and his research and presentations on the connection between the mind, body, and for both physical and mental health are being recognized and used by experts on a national level as an integral part of long-term athletic development and life skills. VJ is also owner of Balanced Excellence, which is the parent company to Frozen Shorts. I love that name, especially because I live in Frozen, Montana. And he promotes balance versus specialization. His motto, or their motto, is peace of mind is victory. Applies to athletics, academics, and life. Welcome to the show, VJ.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome. And we have Maverick Mary with us tonight as well. Educator, coach, awesome sauce.
Of course.
I love being on the show with Mary, especially because she just, she has this radio kind of, just the way she communicates with people, Me, I'm all spunky about it, and she's all Maverick. So VJ, let's have this conversation. Tell us what about this standardizing testing? Let's talk more about that.
Well, I want to preface it with my wife taught for 12 years. I taught for 10. And we're teaching now to the test versus to the student. To get right into it, it's impossible for Common Core to work, just like it was impossible for No Child Left Behind. There's children left behind in the Ivy schools. Well, if you take Common Core at its basic fundamental value that we teach common things all across the country, we miss the fact that 80% of the kids go to a college within 3 hours of their home. Most people stay within their regional graphic for their entire lives. So although the premise was correct, the problem is the only thing common with children is their birth date. They learn different, they grow different, they talk different, they interact different. And how we take that beginning blob and not mold it. People talk about molding. No, what we do is if you're going down in bowling alley with the bumpers, with your little kids, if they throw the ball down the middle, you don't say anything except cheer. If it hits either bumper, you don't grab them, take them off the alley and put them in your alley. So taking to the test is allowing the kids or promulgating the kids to be good in school. Well, if that's the case, what they're saying, then if a child goes to school for 12 to 16 years on the average, and they live to be 75, there should be 75% life skills and only 25% school skills. So the whole thing is tipped upside down.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And the bowling thing, like I just throw my kids down the aisle and watch them bump. I'm teasing.
You can do it. Like there's different ways to bowl.
Yeah. No, that's a really great analogy. And I'm going to have to pass this one to Maverick Mary because she's an educator. And I mean, I am in alignment with what you're saying because I agree. I learned the basic knowledge of math, reading, English, that kind of stuff. I think I even had it backwards at times, but I'm not for sure. And I don't see, other than what I learned, those basic things, the rest has been life knowledge for me, all street knowledge, all knowledge that I went after out, and I'm not knocking people that want to go to college. More the merrier, go for it. If you want to rate spend the rest of your life living the social agenda dream.
So the standard test, we're talking about achievement and aptitude. So if that's the case, then we should be having home ec, shop, physical education, which will go to your tired thing. But people are saying standardized testing are important. Well, two of the biggest publishers do well over $1 billion a year. I'm not going to pick on them. We're not a pick on company, but they're profiting from that. And so if you say in terms of their mantra that this is the way to go, then my question to you is, and we talk about play-based education all the time, why does Finland, they're in the discussion for the top educational system in the world, does one standardized test their senior year, and they don't even call it senior year. You can go two different ways. You go vocational, but you can intermingle. So my point is, I believe that we've gotten to a corporation or professionalization of children versus allowing them to own their journey. And that's dangerous because it doesn't allow them to fail in a safe environment and grow, while the teachers are the ones that are more guides, and the children, for lack of a better term, are more interactive tourists.
Well, and doesn't that put a lot more pressure on the teachers as well?
A lot less. Take the standardized testing. In 2019, teachers still have to buy pens, paper. In no other business do you have to buy those things for yourself. So there's the pressure. And by the way, as teachers, a lot of them are A-type personalities. They're creative. That's what we want to teach, that yearn to learn and allow these kids to be creative. So we're actually handcuffing the teachers for the very thing that they got into education for. Sorry if I'm speaking out of turn.
No, good.
Okay. Beep. I'm pressing the Jeopardy button. Beep. Okay.
Oh, now I'm going to buy a button. I'm totally buying a button. I'll mail you one and we will. I love it.
Okay. So just piggybacking on what VJ said, I have like 50% what VJ had said that I want to piggyback on, and then the other side of the coin. So let's look at the other side of the coin first. And that is, we need to have standardized tests so that we have a measurement of data to see the growth of our students, because the assessments that happen in the classroom aren't standardized. Every teacher does things a little bit different because they know their students the best. Maybe they have coaches that work over them and they help them to standardize what's going to happen in that sixth grade. Or so I happen to be in the middle school. So, that would be, for our school, it's fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade. So they're helping them to do that. However, there is quite a bit of testing. And along with that testing, I agree with the fact that we need data. We need hard data so that we can have measurable improvement with kids and to get from point A to point B and be able to measure that growth. It helps me. I'm an interventionist, so it really helps me to be able to see scores that a student's doing, because the scores that I see actually break it down by standard. So I think more and more schools you're going to see moving towards standard-based learning rather than grades-based learning, so that we're measuring what they can actually do rather than a grade. Because a student can come to intervention and be struggling in a certain area, but yet in their classroom doing okay, because I'm there to fill the gaps and put those building blocks in place so that they can be successful in the classroom. And so, that's dreamy for me if they're doing great in the classroom, and that means that the supports that I'm doing are working. But at the same time, when I look at those standardized test scores, I can see from last time they took it until this time they took it, the growth. Also, I can see if somebody just sat there and said, and just push the button because they didn't care about the test. So in that case, I have to go back in and look at an assessment and look through it again, because often when a student does that, they actually really know the material. They're just like, oh God, I just don't want to do this anymore. So then that makes my job a little bit harder, because then I have to go in and figure out if they really don't know it or they were just sick of taking the test. So from that aspect, I really believe in standardized testing so that I know that the same student in the same grade got those tests and they're measuring them against all the other students. But on the same token, being an interventionist, I'm looking at every student differently. I'm looking at what they know, what they don't know. I'm looking at their behavior. I'm looking at their environment, what makes them happy every day, what makes them sad. I have them in small groups every day. So I'm caring more about them as a person rather than a larger class of 30 students. So in that instance, I swing back around and circle back around with VJ and say, too much testing isn't good, because we are seeing higher rates of depression and higher rates of anxiety. And that goes for kids that are struggling as well as kids that are doing well in school. For instance, I will put my own child on the spot here. When you go to college, one of the great things to do in high school is to take AP classes, so that when you get to college, if you take the AP test and you score a 3, a 4, or a 5, depending on the college, you don't have to take the course. Your parents still have to pay for the credits, but you don't have to sit for the course. Well, she was really struggling and saying, geez, Mom, why are you making me take this AP course when I could just be sailing through with, an A in regular chem? Well, she went on to become a nurse. So what was good about it is that when she got to college and everyone else was struggling, figuring out how to write a lab report, she knew how to do it, and she didn't have as much stress in college. So, it goes both ways. But for the most part in intervention, I have to say that every student's really capable that I have in front of me every day. And a lot of the time it's just because no one gave them self-confidence. They kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I think that's a little bit about what you're saying, VJ, is, we're supposed to be supporting the child, not ramming tests down their throat. So I think that there's an argument for both sides. It's kind of like going on a diet. The doctor always says the same thing: everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. Well, kids like videos more than they like reading books for the most part. And kids like to play outside and they like sports, but they're getting less and less and less of that at school because of budget cuts and everything else. So coaching and doing what you did, it took a lot to be at a number one hockey school. My daughter happens to be at one of those number one hockey schools here in Connecticut. And, it's quite an opportunity to be in Division I. It's much of a different experience in Division II or Division III. So talk about that. Do you think, VJ, in your experience, having been gone on to Division I. Think of how many sacrifices you made in your life to become that great at what you did. And then how much you turned around and gave back to kids in the community. Can you talk to me about that, those sacrifices, and how do we instill that same like nugget of perseverance and go forward with kids like that you had going on to the Division I and push forward? That's some of what you do.
We believe strongly, and when I was a coach, and I want to make sure that I only played one game at the Division I level. I had 2 concussions in a week. They were my 7th and 8th. I got to college with 20/10 vision and left with 200, 300. So to everybody out there, there's no cures for concussion. Be very, very careful. I didn't see them as sacrifices. We all played all the sports. We were outside. Literally, my mom had the cowbell, the copper cowbell that rang. And then down the street, we were all told, oh, your mom's bell's ringing, the bell's ringing. There's pictures of bicycles in our driveway for the baseball field that was out. So I think, again, our company Balanced Excellence, we believe in balance. And so we played the multiple sports. And then to give back was really kind of a fluke. I was in a restaurant with a friend and was talking to them about, because I was helping some inner city kids, and they said, well, would you like to coach a little team? And I said, well, okay, I'll help out. And then after that, I got asked to coach a high school team. And so it just kind of evolved instead of that being a goal. And what we stress is how important the journey is, and the peaks and the valleys and everything. That's all part of the process. And I think the more something is fun, the more you want to do it. And, we played multiple sports. It's an old saying, but I couldn't wait till hockey started in the fall, because we were playing baseball, we were playing soccer, we were playing football. So what we try and teach and give back is balance, and let the kids know, first of all, that it's okay to fail. The smartphones that everybody has, they're not really smartphones, they're answer phones. And so we're now confusing answers with knowledge. That's very scary. And so, like, if I give you the phone and 100 hockey questions, you can get them right. So, and then we get into dopamine. So what we always did, even at the U of R, my business card at the U of R did not say men's ice hockey coach. It said teacher of men's ice hockey. And I think we've lost the perspective. And again, it's a lot with money. We've lost the perspective of how important it is to be a kid and do kid stuff. Can I just tell you a quick story? A real good friend of mine had an operation, and she asked me to do a long-term sub for a biology class in 8th grade. All boys school. I had all 100 kids. And they had this thing called block scheduling. So there was an hour and 15 minutes. And like, if you fly in a plane all day with a couple of stops, it takes you 8 hours. Sitting for that length of time, you're just so tired. So what we did is we made, and my degrees are in history, philosophy, and psychology. Useless, but interesting. And so in biology, I even brought my daughter in, who's an AP student, a senior, to teach. And 80% of the kids' grades improved in the 6 weeks because we brought in Simon Says. We let them play. You give me 45 minutes, I will give you 15 minutes of Simon Says. And by the end of the thing, everybody was involved. And that's what to answer your question, I know it's a long answer, but let them own it and let us watch them. And it's why I'm so anti the standardized testing. Is even if they do badly or well in a standardized test, you still move on to the next thing. Whereas if we allow them that journey and stuff, and this is what we did with coaching. And again, I just, your question now will have me thinking late into the night about sacrifices, and I'm sure I made them, but it didn't seem like that because we had so many different things to do. And we don't
because you enjoyed it, do you think?
Pardon me?
Because you enjoyed it?
Yes. The
You
more
enjoyed
fun
the
you have, the
journey.
more you're going to do something.
Mhm.
But it's important absence. There's the law of diminishing returns. And so, more and more is not always better. And I hate, I don't like testing. So
I have a guest in the lobby who has a couple of questions,
sure.
but they left. Darn it.
Did I talk too long?
No, that's all right. They've actually was sitting there for a couple minutes.
I can see the questions though. Can you see them?
Oh yeah, there they are. There they are. Do you want to go ahead and ask? Go ahead and say them, Mary.
Sure. So first, let me say hi, Hassan, in the background. Hassan and I actually work with another company called Academic Window. He says, how do people determine which intervention is good? I guess that's a question for me. And second, how do we measure results? So our interventions are decided on by coaches and teachers and teams of people. I'm not involved in the selection of the students that comes in. I'm just supposed to.
And then back on.
He's back on.
Yeah, you want me to bring him on?
Sure.
Here we go. This is the fun part, bringing people on. Notifying guest. There we go. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay. I can't see him yet, but I can hear him. So, in answer to your question quickly, the students do take a standardized test, but I don't choose which students come in to get intervention. And it's based on a scale from 1 to 100. So we have a traffic light system that's red, yellow, blue, and green. Your goal is to get to green, which is at the 50 percentile or above. So you would have a regular math class, and then you would have intervention to help give you the building blocks. Because you have to remember where we live. I don't know, VJ, where you are and where you are, Susan. It might be a little bit different in your geographical area, but where I live in our school district, it's a very transient school district. So people are coming in and out from big cities. They've moved a lot with their families, and so they might have gaps in their learning because of that. So, but VJ, just piggyback on what you said too. Like I have a student that loves basketball, or if I have a student that loves soccer for that matter, I try as much as I can to wiggle that into the learning because I have the latitude to be able to do that where a regular teacher wouldn't, because I can have them count goals. I can have them count games. I can have them count their own stats. I can have them look up NFL team and get stats. So there's a lot of fun things that they can do. They can pick their favorite soccer player and get all the information about them. I mean, once I have data, not the kind of data that you like, but once I have data on a player, there's a lot of
data.
We can that kind of data you like, right? We can do a lot with that, right? And it's something they're engaged in. So
music to my ears.
Being an intervention is such a blessing because I don't have a set scope and sequence. My scope and sequence is delivered based on the building blocks that particular student needs, that's shown to me on paper. And so that's what I then know what I need to focus on. But how I focus on it and what tools I use to focus on it are up to me. You know, I use lots of times we play games, to be quite honest, and they don't even know they're learning.
That's it.
So that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. All right. Can I just give you another story? I was mentoring a teacher, and I have to be very careful because the district didn't know about it. And if you guys go way around, I don't want anybody to get in trouble. So she's special ed, and it was an integrated classroom, and the kids were struggling. They were forcing them to read certain books. So as they were going to centers and doing everything, pulled her aside, and I said, went and observed the class, pulled them aside and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You have the other teacher, and it's more. What we're going to do is do 45 minutes, just what I did with that class that I told you, the 8th grade. Now, these are kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd graders. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to do 40 minutes of whatever activity is mandated to you by the state. Then you're going to do 15 minutes of play. Just play. Play. Her kids improved dramatically in 2 weeks. They have what's called an International Play Day. So she invited me back in. The teachers were worried someone was going to break into the building. So these kids weren't getting along. The kids blossomed. We say how smart kids are, but then we treat them like remote-controlled objects attached to our joysticks, our wallets, our ego, our status. What you just said with the soccer kid, and I hope the people listening, watch the change in her body language. Watch the change in her face as she was describing the fun they have. Here it is again. We haven't rehearsed this. Versus when she was talking about standardized testing.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to this thing.
And the vibration shifted. Yep.
It's true, because I like to have fun with them too.
They want to have fun.
Yeah. And my kids will tell you that I'm funny. I might be nerdy, but I'm funny. And I like to play games. And I tell them all the time that the reason I like to play games is because I never got to go to preschool. And I never got to go to kindergarten, because when my mom signed me up for kindergarten was full. And preschool and kindergarten are when you have all the fun stuff. So I didn't get to like finger paint or do anything fun. I had to start in 1st grade when I was 5.
And listen to her. This is bothering her. Well, I'm going to be very kind. 20 years later, when she's 22 years old, this is still bothering her.
True.
It's so this idea that we can force these kids to learn things versus let them own their own path is just so disingenuous to them. And 40% of all the jobs that in the next supposed to be 30 years haven't been created. So we need to be teaching life skills, or what marriage. These are the things they need so that they can process things. Mm-hmm. And we're taking that away from them. We're not allowing them the very thing that they need to be able to solve life's problems.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and
testing makes it worse.
Yeah, I agree. Except that there's that balance that we have to have. Our superiors require us to have balance. So, so we do.
Here's my story. So I have 4 adult young men. I have 2 of them that were labeled with learning disabilities. Absolutely brilliant, guys, love them to death. And all of their school life was a complete struggle. All 4 of them. And I don't know why, other than maybe it's probably because the teachers had too many students in their classroom. I have no idea why. I've never asked, really. And maybe you guys might have an answer to this. But so here's what the reality was in my life with my boys. My son, who's 22 now, will be 22, went through, we'd go to these IEP meetings, things like that. And then he would, we got into high school, 9th grade. At the end of the year of 9th grade, we're sitting around the table, all these teachers, me. I actually went and got an advocate because I was so upset about the process and everything that had been going on. And she still wasn't a voice for my son. And there was one teacher who sat there, and because everybody else is like, well, we don't understand why he's struggling so much. He's just getting D's and F's, and he really just lays his head on the table and takes naps. What do you think his carrot is that we could dangle in front of him to get him going, or to inspire him to want to learn? And the one teacher said, Have you ever looked at his record? He is a 5th grade student level of reading, spelling. So everything that you're teaching him is foreign language. He's an artist. Today he is fully self-expressed. He writes free hugs on a cardboard at a big festival and gives people free hugs because he doesn't care about the system. He doesn't care about money. I mean, which has a little impact, mom's point of view. But the thing is, I watched also my oldest son, who is a football player, throughout from the time he was little to high school. At the end of his senior year, although he was getting all these bad grades and he wasn't, doing so good with his grades, they let him play all the way to senior year. They called him, he calls me crying, "Mom, you've got to come talk to the principal. He's kicking me out of school." And I said, "Why?" So we went in there and talked, and it turned out because his grades are bad. And he said, "Wes, unfortunately, we're going to have to kick you out of football." Senior year, towards the end of the year. And then was told, you might as well drop out of high school because for you to catch up, it's going to be another 2 years in school. My son, although that was heartbreaking for him, he still plays semi-pro football and has a family now, works for Boeing, went to Access to Success program offered here locally, and got his high school diploma, did some college, and is doing well. But the only thing he cared about was having fun. He learned from his peers and football. He had issues with anger, and that was one of his biggest outlets. So I felt for many years that the system failed my boys. And because I didn't know any better, I was a young mom. I didn't know any better. I didn't know that I could be a voice. I always just listened to what I was being told, what was right for them. And so for me, I have a daughter now who's going to be 5 and going into public school. Very hard choice for me. Because if I had it my way, which I suppose I do have it my way, right, to homeschool her, I will. But I'm taking in any kind of knowledge that I can. And I really just want her to go for the basic learning skills. And then from there, allow her to choose which way she wants to go. And I just see so much in the systems from an outside perspective, from a mother's perspective, who is nothing, I have nothing against the teachers or the principals. I agree with you, VJ. It's become a money thing. And we're dealing with people's lives here. And my success does not come from a high school diploma. It didn't be my best so that I can leave a legacy for my boys and my daughter.
Can I just address 2 quick things, please? And then before I address, I want to say I was a professional stand-up comic for 7 years. You're funny. Okay? You're funny. So, here's the thing.
And Spunky.
That one teacher who saw it is the Maverick.
That's right.
I don't want this to sound like an excuse, although it's wrapped in an excuse. When standardized test, there's no data that says standardized testing is any precursor to how a child is going to do in life. None. 0. In the world. 0. That's mind-boggling. But my point to what you're saying is watch her body language, and we talk about this all the time, as she was describing the football, the struggle, the joy, the sorrow. It was nothing to do about testing. It was all about the journey. And these teachers are under so much pressure to produce.
Right.
And they're under so much pressure to meet a standard. And it's inane because it doesn't work. You two have just told stories about the fun and about your children, and none of them had to do with testing. And to say that the one teacher that saw the testing in the 5th grade is again saying, are you trying to tell me that people with a master's couldn't figure that out on their own? if they didn't have to do the tests, if they didn't have that pressure to succeed, if they didn't have that pressure to meet certain standards to keep their jobs. So the very argument that they're using for testing is the very thing that's stopping them from teaching. And then that's why the kids are so tired. Again, it's like sitting on an airplane, the airport, the airplane, the airport, the airplane to take a flight. You're not doing anything all day, but you're exhausted. We did Simon Says and engaged the whole class. Mary's engaging the whole class. That football team's engaging. And so we've gone from the ability of inclusiveness to exclusiveness. And that's what testing does. I apologize for my language. It tells you who sucks. Okay, it does.
Yeah.
And even if you suck, there's nothing there to stop process to deal with that over and over again if you're one of 40. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please don't apologize for speaking your truth. The other thing that I would add to that is people, like, these tests are labeling, and the impact of that, I don't know about how you experienced it in school, but for me, it was like, if I didn't do good, I wasn't good. If I did bad, I was bad. And so it meant something about my own self-worth.
Yes. And there's nothing that's, please show me the data. We work with people, I shouldn't say we're connected with people all over the world. No one yet has been able to give me data that says standardized testing has any positive data of how a child is going to be in life. The smart ones do better on the test. The ones that aren't so smart do less. Well, we already know that. We already know that in class because they're the A students, the AP students. I don't need you to bring me. What I do need is I need Mary to have more tools. I need her to have more books. I need her to have more things in her classroom. I don't need more tests.
Yeah,
Right.
I want Mary as my teacher too.
we have tons of fun. Honestly, if the only thing I had in my classroom, like, I'm really lucky that I have, like, the top of my table where I have small groups is a whiteboard. So today, I mean, my kids know I am, like, ridiculous. Like, today, one of the questions was, a dinosaur is 4 feet tall. If the second dinosaur is 24 feet taller than the first dinosaur, what is the numerical expression? So the student says, I have no idea what this is. So what do I start doing? Drawing the most ridiculous, horrible looking dinosaur you've ever seen in your life on the table, you know?
Yeah.
And I got his, like, little legs going and his back legs going, and the kid's just cracking up. She's like, Miss Ivini, like, really? Like, you need help with that? Give me the marker, Like, you need help with that? So, like, but did they get the problem? Did they understand it after we drew a picture? Yeah, but also it was funny because I can't draw dinosaurs.
When did you give him the standardized test in the middle of that? When did you give him the test and stop the fun and stop the learning process? I'm trying to figure things out.
That's good. I love that.
Slow. And I'm Polish. My real last name is Stankovic. From my grandfather came over. But when did you stop and then make sure that you could evaluate and know where they learned, where they were going, and what they were going to do to be able to prepare to draw the dinosaur at the end? That's what I thought.
It was in your test manual, Mary. Admit it.
Oh yeah, that was there. That was.
I got to stop throwing those things away, don't I?
Yeah,
so
either have it or you don't. You either care about your kids.
There it is.
That you have in front of you, or you don't. They really don't care about learning. They care that you care about them.
I knew I could get you there, Mary. I knew I could get you there. They don't care what you know. Do they know that you care? It's all about the journey.
It's really not rocket science. It really isn't at all. I'm
gonna have to interrupt you. Hold on here. It is 10 after 7.
Okay.
And we do have Hassan is back on.
Oh.
And I would like to see real quickly before we kind of move towards the end and closing out this show tonight. If I can get him off of mute. Oh, that's weird. It's not unmuting.
Can you hear me? Hi, Hassan. You got to get into the camera. You need to lean over to the right a little bit more.
Oh, hold on. I accidentally took him out. I'm bringing it back, Hassan.
Don't go away. I saw you. I actually saw you.
I am on the way, so I am listening to you.
So just lower the camera so we can see you. I can see you a little bit. Can you lower the camera a little bit more so we can see? So you can come into the frame.
Do you see me?
We see your eyes and your forehead. You're getting there.
Yeah, on the car. I am on the car.
So you've been on here listening to us, I'm sure, and I just want to know what your take is on what we've been talking about tonight.
Yeah, I know your topics is very familiar to me. Also, as Mary knows all the so my projects also related with same topics you are talking about. So I interested very much.
All right. Are you bringing fun to learning?
I am learning, still learning, yeah. Right.
But are you having fun doing it?
Exactly. It's fun for me.
Okay. Honestly, that's all that matters. Go with what feels good.
Thanks, Mary, you invited me. So I want to follow you.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. Just thank you so much for joining us. Let me tell you, Hassan has his PhD and he has developed a program around students. It's an ed tech program called Academic Window. And what it does is it helps teachers and counselors to all work together and principals so that we can see students that kind of cluster together, because in a classroom, they take a somewhat like a survey, and then they can find out, use the preventative counseling tool that is his ed tech program to help students before things get ugly. It is a preventative counseling tool so that we find out what kids need, what's missing before things get out of hand. So
I know what BJ is going to say. What's missing?
Me.
Fun.
Everywhere. Just clone me.
Hey, play has taught kids for centuries. I'm sorry. There's no money in it. My bad.
I love it
if you're having fun.
Oh my, it's just over and over again. Look, even at the college level, we put super balls in practice, soccer balls. We made the lefties righties, the defense play forward. Look, if we want to get to the technical aspect of it, we're talking about the amygdala, we're talking about cortisol, we're talking about the hippocampus, we're talking about the prefrontal cortex, we're talking about the whole training of the brain and the firing of the synapses, which is the part of the third book that I wrote. And so as that connects to the mind and the body, there's where the balance comes. But I cannot stress enough to listen to Susan, and you saw how heart-wrenching that was, but the journey provided it. It wasn't the testing, it was the journey. Susan, you saw Mary in agony over the defending standardized testing. She had to put effort into it. No effort into anything else. So at the end of the day, who's going to be tired and who's going to learn? I don't know. This one's not very hard.
Can I add something?
My team, for the 21 years I was at college, we graduated 21 doctors and lawyers and 31 doctors and lawyers and 21 engineers, and we had the highest GPA on campus. We gave the kids a month off in the middle of the season. We gave them every Monday off, which now pro teams are doing and other college teams are doing, so that they had balance in their lives.
Hassan?
That's my speech.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Mostly parents, teachers, talking to students' brain, people's brain, so in mind. But also we should talk to their heart. So emotions also very important, because we want to behave what we think about, but our emotions control our behaviors.
Yeah.
So they should be together. So emotions is very important. I think sometimes emotions we missing thing is emotion. I think.
Mm-hmm.
We say passion instead of emotion.
Sorry.
We say passion
Passion,
instead
right?
of emotion. That what they feel. And then again, I can't stress enough, when you watch this, you don't even need to listen to us. Just look at their faces, look at their body language and what they talk about and what they enjoy, what he has come now and brought in, although it's mostly eyebrow up, but you can see the difference.
I see his smile.
You can see the difference. And so I just ask your listeners, this is what they enjoy. This is what they feel good about. This is what hurts them and bothers them. Why is the balance 75% testing and 25% life skills? The cafeteria that you go into can teach every single thing a child needs in life: math, history, science, economics, everything. And yet we look down at the people that work in the cafeteria. Oh, it's a cafeteria lady or this or that. No, there is so much education in the environment for these children. And what he just said, that emotion, we start getting these senses, we get the amygdala trained, and we get these kids thinking and let the environment come into them, then they blossom.
Exactly. Our lunch ladies are amazing, and it always surprises me how the kids will naturally say thank you. Kids you would never think would say thank you. And they'll say, oh, I really appreciate that. Or, they just, that polite child comes out, because the lunch ladies aren't just the lunch ladies. They are our nurturers when those kids come to eat.
That's awesome. All right, you guys. So we are 17 minutes after our time. So first off, I want to thank you, VJ. I want to thank you, Hassan, for being on the show tonight. VJ, you have an amazing message, and just keep on doing what you're doing. It's absolutely wonderful, and keep high vibing.
I feel like I'd love to hear more.
Sure, I'll come back. Have me back. Unless everybody's tuning you out, because I'm a little bit in left field. I'm a little bit off of center. Not much, just a smidge.
Oh, off of center ice. No.
Oh, bringing in hockey. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to have this conversation some more. I think it would be great. I mean, I actually had this idea about doing like a round table discussion like this, where we bring in different people's perspectives and points of views, and we just have this round table. They call it the World Cafe kind of style.
Neat.
Except we're doing it online. Yeah, that's actually,
I'll try and come out of my shell next time a little bit.
That'll be great. Hassan, you got to get better at just giving us the whole face.
A little more lighting.
Can I just show all I can see is this?
Now he's there. Now at the end.
I'm going out. Let me.
Now that I gave him an example.
I like to do it the other way, because he's way more handsome than me. So
you can go back to that.
Okay.
Got to give you some credit, VJ. Bald is good. Okay. Bald is the look now. I mean, come on. There's man bun, bald.
I never wanted to be anybody but me.
That's right.
I think we have a really good team here. We have like the parents, from the parents' perspective. I have 4 kids too, but whatever.
I'd like to add. We could bring in. So I have a friend who's an unschooler. She's raised all 9 of her children, unschooling them.
Oh, that would be an interesting round table.
It's not the same as homeschooling, but they kind of fit it into that category. And I actually am super excited. There's actually a school that has opened up that's all about unschooling. And it's just what VJ is talking about. It's all based on what they want to learn, how they're going to learn from their environment. They're included amongst other, all the children. It's from kindergarten all the way to
Look at
18.
that.
Yeah, it's
VJ loves it.
I'd love to see some more of that kind of school coming on.
More testing. If I can say anything, I think everybody should know I believe in way, way more testing. Never, ever, ever.
Never, ever, never, ever. Okay.
So you guys,
last words of wisdom. Let's have a whip around before we end tonight. So, Susan, who do you want to go first? Last words of wisdom before we hang up.
let's go with Hassan.
Okay, go ahead.
On the guest on the spot.
It's good. I understand there are many things I should learn more. Thank you.
I love that.
Outstanding.
Yep. Mary?
Okay, VJ, VJ. Oh, me? Okay. Ooh. So
Maybe in some programs we can discuss our projects together with Mary and together with you.
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we could talk about it with Susan.
Okay.
Offline. So what I want to say is, I know it's a great day when my student says, you know what? I don't like it when people interfere with my success.
Ooh, that's good.
So there happened to be some distractions, and they didn't really like that. And I'm like, whoop, whoop, you're so engaged. You're like bummed. Someone's distracting you. Oh, I'm doing my job.
All right, VJ.
I just want to go back a little bit to my coaching background, because so many people are involved in youth sports and high school sports and sports in general. To the parents, when you take your child to the game or practice, only say, I hope you have fun. On the ride home, I love you. That's it. Their athletic prowess or lack thereof has nothing to do with you. I love you. And you go to the game. I hope you have fun. That's it.
I love that. I love that. I wish I would have known that.
I'm gonna try. I'm
When
gonna
my
try.
kids
I'm
were
gonna try.
little.
How is it? Is it good? Oh, my
Yeah.
kids. make
Oh
fun of
yeah,
me.
yours is really good.
It is. Oh,
Yeah, it's really good. Good
Only
job.
my kids could see it now.
All right. Awesome. No, that's really good. And from a mama's perspective, don't get up here in your head first off and ask lots of questions. You are the one who is an advocate for your child. And first off, you got to let go of that your child doesn't know how to think for themselves, because they know from the age of 7 up, they already know. And we need to give them credit for that.
We have got to come back together. I feel like I feel these tunnels of information coming out of my mouth.
And I got
You can't
goosebumps.
see, and I know VJ's holding it in. I see him. He's like,
Spiritual bumps here. Well, so bring next week, or not next week, but on March 13th, this is for the audience. March 13th, same time, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Time. Joining us will be Nikki Gengemi. She's an educator, author, and a mindset coach. She teaches mindfulness in her classes.
yay!
Yeah, I was
Probably better looking than me, too.
So, all right, you guys. First off, I just want to acknowledge you, VJ, for the work that you do and your contribution to
Thank
our
you.
world.
You too. You guys are doing great stuff. You
Thank
came
you.
highly recommended to me. It was
Awesome.
a pleasure.
Thank you. And same as you, Mary. Maverick, Mary, my love. Keep doing what you're doing with those students. They love you. It shows in your face every time you talk about them, because they mean that much to you. So it's obvious. And I just want to say namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.